darling. There's no rush. I'll take you to the car.
It was very foolish of me, fainting like that.
Hello.
Maxim, it's Fabel.
And how does the bride find herself today? What do you want, Fabel?
How are you, Max? I was rather worried about you when I heard about the inquest. That's why I came down.
I'm touched by your solicitude, but
My
if you don't
guess
mind...
is they'll turn in a verdict of suicide. And that is, of course, unless something unforeseen occurs.
What do you mean?
Well, I have a strong feeling that before the day is out, somebody's going to make use of that rather expressive, though old-fashioned term, foul play.
Go on.
You see, Max, I find myself in a rather awkward position. You've only got to read this note to understand. It's from Rebecca. She wrote it to me the day she died. Oh, I'm not going to bother you with the contents now, but I can assure you that it's not the note of a woman who intends to drown herself the same night. You know, Max, I've often wondered what it would be like to retire to the country. Have a nice little place with a few acres of shooting. I've never figured out what it would cost a year, but I'd like to talk about it with you.
Darling, Mr. Fabel and I have a little business transaction on hand. I think we'd better conduct it over at the inn. I may have a private room there.
Maxim.
You all right now, dear?
Yes, but
Frank will be here in a moment. Ask him to find Colonel Julian. Then bring them both over to the inn immediately. Come on, Fabel, let's go. Colonel Julian, this is Mr. Fabel.
Oh, I know Colonel Julian. We're old friends, aren't we?
Good morning.
Since you're old friends, I assume you also know that he's head of the police here. I think he might be interested to hear your proposition.
I don't know what you mean. I only want to see justice done, Colonel. The evidence suggested certain possible theories concerning Rebecca's death. One of them, of course, is suicide. And now I have a little note here which puts that possibility quite out of court. Will you read it, Colonel?
Jack, darling, I've just seen the doctor, and I'm going to Mandalay right away. I shall be at the cottage all this evening and shall leave the door open for you. I have something terribly important to tell you. Rebecca.
Now, does that look like the note of a woman who had made up her mind to kill herself? Now, come, Colonel, as an officer of the law, don't you feel that there's some slight grounds for suspicion?
Of murder?
Or what else?
It's blackmail, pure and simple.
Blackmail's not so pure nor so simple, Mr. Crawley. Mr. Fabel, perhaps you can provide us also with a motive.
Oh, I knew you were going to bring that up, Colonel. Yes, I'll supply that, too.
Maxim, what's he going to do?
You come in, Mrs. Danvers. Thank you. Colonel Julian, Mrs. Danvers. And I believe you know everyone else, Danny.
Mrs. Danvers, there are a few questions.
No offense, Colonel, but I think if I put this to Danny, she'll understand it more easily. Danny, who was Rebecca's doctor?
Mrs. De Winter always had Dr. McLean from the village.
No, you heard. I said Rebecca's doctor in London. We know that Rebecca went to a doctor in London on the last day of her life. Who was it?
I don't know.
Oh, I understand, Danny. You're trying to defend her. But that's what I'm doing.
Mrs. Danvers, it has been suggested that Mrs. De Winter was deliberately murdered.
There you have it in a nutshell, Danny. But there's one more thing you'll want to know. The name of the murderer. George Fortescue Maximilian De Winter. Well, Danny?
There was a doctor. Mrs. De Winter sometimes went to him privately.
What was his name?
Dr. Baker. 165 Gold Hawk Road, Shepherd's Bush.
There you are, Colonel. There's where you'll find your motive. He'll tell you why Rebecca went to him, to confirm the fact that she was going to have a child, a sweet, curly-headed little child. She told Max about it. And so, like the gentleman of the old school that he is, he killed her.
Maxim, I'm afraid we shall have to question this, Dr. Baker.
I'm ready to leave now, if you wish.
Maxim, let me go with you.
Please, darling, wait for me at Mandalay. I'll be back first thing in the morning.